When a woman begins to cheat, she rarely announces it with grand gestures or obvious confessions. Instead, her betrayal leaks out in silence, in the things she suddenly stops doing. The warmth that once felt natural becomes forced. The habits that once defined your bond begin to disappear, almost as if she's quietly erasing pieces of the relationship. What makes this so unsettling is that our brains are wired to notice presence, not absence. We remember the moments when someone calls, texts, or touches us. But when love fades, it's often not what's added, but what's missing, that reveals the truth. Psychologists have long studied what's called behavioral withdrawal, a subtle but powerful signal of emotional detachment. It's the human mind's way of reallocating energy, pulling it away from one bond and redirecting it toward another. And when it happens in a relationship, the clues are often hiding in plain sight. Today, we'll break down 3 things she stops doing when she's cheating on you. These aren't guesses, and they aren't vague theories, they are grounded in psychology, human behavior, and the painful patterns of betrayal that countless people overlook until it's too late. If dark psychology and hidden truths about human behavior fascinate you, make sure to hit like and subscribe. Share this video with someone who values raw, unfiltered insights about relationships. The silence of affection. When betrayal begins, it rarely shouts. It whispers. And one of the first whispers you'll notice is in the absence of affection. She used to hug you without thinking. Her hand would find yours in public, almost instinctively. A kiss on the cheek when you weren't expecting it. These little things might have seemed small at the time, but they carried the weight of security, warmth, and connection. When cheating enters the picture, those gestures vanish. Not because she's suddenly cold-hearted, but because her emotional energy has been redirected. Psychologists call this emotional displacement, the phenomenon where affection once reserved for one person is unconsciously pulled away and given to another. It doesn't always mean she has stopped loving entirely, but it does mean the natural flow of intimacy has been interrupted. Here's where it becomes psychologically tricky. The human brain adjusts to gradual changes. If someone stops touching you overnight, you notice immediately. But when the affection fades slowly, less hand-holding here, fewer hugs there, you often normalize it. You tell yourself she's just tired, stressed, or busy. But beneath those rationalizations, something deeper may be happening. In research on attachment and betrayal, experts have found that touch is not just physical, it's biochemical. Each affectionate gesture releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. When that bond is replaced elsewhere, the body unconsciously resists creating it with you. So the silence of affection is not just emotional, it's chemical. And the silence spreads. Nights that once ended with warmth now feel colder. The spontaneous playfulness disappears. Even in public, when affection used to be natural, she might pull her hand away, avoiding the subtle intimacy you once shared without hesitation. These tiny withdrawals may not scream betrayal, but they sting in a way that feels hollow and confusing. Some men make the mistake of ignoring these signals, chalking them up to stress or mood. Others overreact, demanding explanations, which often pushes her further away. The truth lies in observation. When someone stops giving affection without a clear reason, it's rarely random. It's a shift in emotional investment, a quiet sign that something sacred is slipping through your hands. The most unsettling part is this: absence hurts more than rejection. Rejection is active, you know where you stand. Absence is passive, it leaves you questioning yourself, your worth, and your reality. And that psychological erosion is exactly why the silence of affection is one of the first and most devastating signs of betrayal. Vanishing conversations. Cheating doesn't always begin in the bedroom. More often, it begins in silence. Not the comfortable silence you share when two people are deeply connected, but the empty kind that feels like a wall. One of the clearest signs is when conversations start to dry up. Think about it. She once told you about everything: her day at work, the weird text her friend sent, even the small frustrations that didn't really matter. These weren't just words. They were her way of keeping you inside her world. When someone stops sharing those little pieces of themselves, it's not just a loss of words, it's a loss of intimacy. Psychologists describe this as a breakdown in emotional disclosure. Human beings build trust and closeness by opening up. Every detail she shares is like a thread tying her to you. But when her focus shifts elsewhere, she no longer feels the same pull to keep weaving those threads with you. Instead, she invests her stories, her frustrations, and her secrets into someone else. What makes this change so hard to notice is that it often happens gradually. At first, she might say she's tired or just not in the mood to talk. Then the excuses grow: busy schedules, stress, distractions. Soon you realize days have gone by without a real conversation, the kind where you both actually connect. And here's the unsettling truth: silence creates distance faster than arguments. People often think fights ruin relationships, but in reality, fights mean two people still care enough to engage. Silence, on the other hand, signals withdrawal. When someone stops talking, it's not just about the absence of words, it's about the absence of emotional presence. Studies in relationship psychology show that couples who stop engaging in regular, open conversation are far more likely to drift apart. Without constant emotional exchange, the bond weakens. That's why cheating often leaves behind a trail of silence. It's not just secrecy, it's displacement. She's already giving her emotional energy to someone else, so there's nothing left for you. You might notice this in the smallest ways. Texts that once had paragraphs are now reduced to one-word replies. Phone calls end faster. When you ask how her day was, the answer is short and vague: it was fine. The conversations that once stretched late into the night are replaced with scrolling through her phone in silence. The danger here is psychological erosion. The less she talks, the more you fill in the blanks yourself. Your mind begins to wonder, to spiral, to imagine scenarios. That mental torture, created by the absence of communication, often hurts more than the truth itself. When the conversations vanish, so does the emotional glue that holds two people together. Words build trust. Without them, you're left with suspicion, distance, and an invisible wall that keeps growing taller between you. The withdrawal of time. Time is the one thing people can't fake for long. When someone is in love with you, they'll find ways, big or small, to spend time together. It doesn't matter how busy life gets, because being around you is their comfort. But when cheating enters the picture, time becomes the first thing that quietly disappears. At first, it might feel like nothing. She's suddenly caught up with work, or she's too tired to go out. Maybe she tells you she needs more space or me time. On the surface, it all sounds reasonable. But beneath it, something shifts. Her priorities no longer include you in the same way. Psychologists call this a change in investment patterns. Relationships survive because both people invest time, effort, attention. When that investment starts shrinking, the balance collapses. A person who once stayed up late talking with you now has to sleep early. Someone who used to invite you into their plans now seems to make plans without you. Slowly, your presence is no longer essential to her daily rhythm. What makes this stage deeply unsettling is the emotional coldness that comes with it. It's not just that she spends less time, it's that the time she does spend with you feels different. Maybe she seems distracted, like her mind is elsewhere. Maybe she's scrolling on her phone more than she's actually present with you. It's like being in the same room, but not in the same moment. Research in relationship psychology shows that consistent time together creates a sense of synchrony, a feeling that two lives are moving in step. When that synchrony breaks, the relationship starts to feel unstable. It's as if the music you both dance to suddenly loses rhythm, and no matter how hard you try, you can't catch the beat. And here's where the darkness creeps in: the time she's pulling away from you isn't disappearing. It's being redirected. The hours she once gave you, those conversations, those shared routines, even the quiet evenings, are now being offered to someone else. Cheating is never just about physical betrayal, it's about the theft of time and energy that once belonged to you. The signs can be subtle. She's working late, more often. She spends weekends with friends you've never met. She avoids making future plans with you, as if committing to next month or even next week feels too heavy. Even when she is around, her presence feels borrowed, temporary, like she's already waiting to leave. The psychological toll of this withdrawal is brutal. Humans crave consistency from those they love. When that consistency vanishes, your brain begins to sense danger. You start to feel anxious, insecure, even paranoid. And the worst part? She might dismiss your feelings, making you question your own reality. Time is love's most honest currency. When she stops spending it with you, she's already investing it somewhere else. And once that shift begins, every stolen hour becomes a silent confession. The decline of affection is the heartbeat of any relationship. It's not just about physical intimacy, it's the little gestures, the touch on the shoulder, the lingering hug, the way her eyes soften when they meet yours. These small moments tell you that you matter, that the bond is alive. But when cheating enters, affection doesn't just fade, it collapses. At first, it might feel like she's just tired or not in the mood. Maybe she tells you she's stressed or going through something personal. And sure, everyone has off days. But the difference is in the pattern. When the excuses become constant, when physical closeness turns into a rare event, something deeper is shifting. In psychology, this is often explained by emotional displacement. When someone starts giving their affection to another person, they subconsciously reduce it with their current partner. It's not intentional at first, it's almost automatic. Affection is finite. When she's pouring it into someone else, there's less left for you. You start to notice it in the little things. She used to reach for your hand without thinking, but now her hands stay in her lap. She used to kiss you goodnight every evening, now some nights, she turns away, already asleep. The warmth that once felt natural begins to feel forced, or worse, absent. There's also a psychological reason behind this decline. Researchers studying infidelity found that cheaters often develop a kind of cognitive dissonance, a mental discomfort that comes from living two lives. To reduce that discomfort, they unconsciously distance themselves from their partner. It's easier to pull back affection than to confront the guilt head-on. And here's the painful irony, when she is affectionate, it might feel strangely artificial, like she's checking a box. You sense it, the kiss that lacks depth, the hug that doesn't linger, the intimacy that feels mechanical instead of connected. Your body knows the difference. Human beings are wired to detect authenticity in affection, and when it's gone, you feel it in your bones. Some partners try to explain it away. Maybe she's just stressed, you tell yourself. Maybe I'm overthinking. But deep down, you notice the absence. Affection isn't just something you see, it's something you feel. And when it vanishes, it leaves a silence that words can't cover. This stage often brings the harshest emotional toll. The absence of touch creates a sense of rejection, even if she never says it out loud. Your body and brain interpret the lack of closeness as danger, triggering feelings of abandonment, loneliness, even depression. That's because physical affection isn't just romantic, it literally regulates your nervous system. Without it, you feel untethered, unsafe. And the darkest part? The affection she withholds from you doesn't just vanish into thin air. Just like her time, it's being redirected. Those touches, those kisses, that warmth, someone else is receiving what used to be yours. That realization cuts deeper than words, because it confirms what you feared all along, she's already crossed the line. The emotional void, when all the signs stack together, her routines change, conversations die, time slips away, and affection fades, you arrive at the most painful stage, the emotional void. This is where the relationship feels hollow, even if she's physically still there. The emotional void isn't loud. It doesn't shout, it doesn't fight. It's quiet. It creeps in through silence at dinner, through the nights when she's beside you but feels 1,000 miles away. You start to realize that what's missing isn't just words or touches, it's her presence. The essence of who she was with you seems gone. Psychologists often describe this stage as emotional detachment, where one partner shuts down their emotional availability. In cheating, this detachment is almost inevitable. Why? Because emotions don't multiply easily between two people. When she invests deeply in someone else, she has to withdraw from you. The mind can only serve one emotional connection at a time. This is also the phase where denial cracks. Before, you could excuse her behavior, stress, work, mood swings. But when the void settles in, excuses don't cover it anymore. The gap is too big. You feel it in the way she doesn't look at you the same, in the way she forgets things that once mattered, in the way her laughter doesn't reach her eyes when she's with you. There's a devastating psychological twist here. Mirror neurons, the brain's empathy system, no longer fire the way they used to. Couples in sync tend to unconsciously mirror each other's emotions, smiles, gestures, even breathing patterns. But when one partner disengages emotionally, that mirroring stops. You sense it instantly, even if you can't explain why. It feels like you're talking to someone behind glass. And here's the most haunting part: the void is self-protective for her. By creating distance, she numbs her guilt. The less she feels connected to you, the easier it becomes to justify what she's doing. It's not just emotional neglect, it's a psychological survival strategy. For you, though, the void is crushing. Humans are wired for connection. Emotional absence feels like starvation. Your brain craves closeness, craves reassurance, but every attempt to reach her feels like hitting a wall. This constant rejection doesn't just hurt, it rewires your brain. Studies show that chronic emotional neglect can mimic the effects of physical pain in the brain's neural pathways. That's why it feels unbearable, it literally is. And yet, this void also brings clarity. When you finally accept that she's no longer emotionally present, you stop waiting for the old her to come back. That realization is brutal, but it's also freeing. It's the point where denial breaks, and reality sets in. Because at the end of the day, infidelity isn't only about bodies, it's about presence. When she's cheating, she doesn't just stop showing up in small ways. She stops showing up altogether. And the silence she leaves behind is louder than any confession could ever be.